If you can't guarantee pork, and pork is more important for them than all animal proteins are for the West combined, all that's left is rice. Rice is the most phosphate fertilizer hungry crop we grow. The Chinese used to be the world's largest producer and exporter of the stuff. As a result, they've stopped all exports. So we've lost potash because of the Ukraine war, and we've lost phosphate because of Chinese mismanagement. Bottom line of all of this is the best case scenario for China is increasing instability in their political, economic, and manufacturing systems moving forward. I don't think we're going to see the short-term complete collapse that we're going to see in Germany, but they are no longer a reliable partner. And you have to factor that into everything that you do, especially if you're buying solar panels that are made by slave labor in Zhejiang. Because we are very close getting to the point where two goals of ESG are diametrically opposed, and I think I know which one's going to win. Slave labor, bad. Bad. Okay, transport. This is the USS Ford. It is the most piece of military equipment humans have ever built. One of them, by itself, can take on any but the 7 largest air forces in the world. That assumes that the US Navy fights fair, which it doesn't, because that's the whole idea of the Navy. The ships move. You choose the time and the place of the conflict. You take that into account, one Ford can take out but 3 of the world's largest air forces, one of which is ours. We're building 4 of them to complement our pre-existing 10 Nimitz-class supercarriers. You want to bring the hammer down on the country, this is the right tool for the job. You want to patrol the global oceans so that global commerce can go anywhere unmolested, this is a horrible choice. Because if you only have 14 carriers, 7 of them are in port at any given time, that's not enough to patrol the global oceans, that's not enough by a factor of 10. Instead, you need these bad boys, destroyers. Hundreds of them, specifically 800. We have 70. Half of which are assigned to defend the carriers. Even if we wanted to still be the world's policeman, we no longer have the capacity to even try. And there's no coalition of countries around the world that can either. People like to say, yes, the Chinese, though, have twice as many ships as we do. Yeah, but half of them would fit on this stage. They're itty bitty. They can't sail more than 1,000 miles from home. They can't patrol sea lanes, especially not for a globe-spanning corporate hunger that is the Chinese system. Anything that is dependent on transoceanic trade is vulnerable now. And since there's a war on, and since there's mismanagement in China, you should not count on those supply lines continuing. It's worse for some. Population density. If you're in the top left, bottom right, those 3 quadrants are net exporters of raw materials, of food, and of energy. The top right one is the only one that's a net importer. In fact, the net importer is just this circle. Anyone notice a country in there that we've had some concerns about? China is the country most dependent on a peaceful, globalized trading system that can no longer be maintained. So whether it's because of the Russian war, COVID, a food crisis, a trade dispute, or the inevitable end of global trading access, this story stops. And that's not even the top reason we should expect it to stop. I've got that coming up soon. All right, back to energy. This is total investment from all sources, all corporate, all government, into all oil and all natural gas globally. Back in 2014, a story started circulating in Wall Street, in Paris, in Japan, that fossil fuels are done. You've heard this story. I think that's what the next panel is going to talk about. No pressure. If we're going to be done with fossil fuels between 2030 and 2040, if that's where we're headed, and it takes 3 to 8 years to even get first output from a conventional oil and natural gas field, and then another 5 to 15 years to break even, why would you pour your money into that? Now, there are a series of logical flaws with that freight train argument, but it took hold, and investment into the space plummeted by 2/3 over the next 7 years. 3 to 8 years to bring a project online. So if we double or triple investment in the space today, you should not expect a supply effect to hit the markets before 2025. So where we are right now, 2025, that's as good as it gets. Okay? Now, what is true for the global average is not true for each individual piece. I love this graphic sequence. I like to call this the checkbook map, because every dot is someone who has paid their power bill. You guys love the checkbooks, right? Yeah. Here are the world's conventional and oil and natural gas basins. A lot of the anger and angst and stress of the last 75 years has been about getting the energy from where it's produced to where people actually live and consume it. I'm going to give you another click and show you where the world's commercially viable shale deposits are. Watch North America. And some of those lighter ones are just ones that haven't had the exploration work, so we just don't know yet. There used to be a lot more pink on this graphic, but in 10 years, lots of people have poked at their shale and discovered it's just not all that, except here. There are a dozen reasons why US shale is fundamentally different from global energy. At least at this moment, this is the most important one. We produce it where we live, and no one else can. So even if the Biden administration botches this oil export ban, we're working from such a strong baseline, there'll be lots of fallout, but most of it will be on other continents. Checkbook map, zoomed in. Here is the most important concentration of checkbooks in human history. It's Marshalltown, Iowa. This is where I am from. Bismarck, North Dakota. Should you find yourself in Bismarck and you need a good meal, you're in the wrong city. And this is not a frat party. Western North Dakota, population 8? 9? 10. 10, okay. It's not lit up because everybody's afraid of the dark. It's lit up because of a problem with transport. Oil is a liquid. It conforms to the shape of the container. You can put in a rail car or a tanker truck or whatever. But natural gas disperses. And so much is bubbling up as a byproduct from the shale oil fields that they have to flare it until they can build out the infrastructure to gather it. That takes 3 to 15 months based on where you are. You can see the flares from space. You'll see the same thing in the Permian and the same thing in the Eagle Ford. Now, in the United States, we have the world's largest and most diversified natural gas system, but we still can't keep up, which means that for the last 15-odd years, natural gas has been unique in the American economic experience. It's been a waste product. It's sold for below the cost of production, in many cases, negative prices.
देख